Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bantamweight Boxing YouTube channel with me, your host, Michael Waite, the man always in the shirt. Should be called Shirts and Boxing. Yes, I'm too lazy to change out my work stuff, so it is what it is. But what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about a big fight. It is finally fight week for Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. I nearly forgot his name there. What a great start. Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Now, this is a huge fight, particularly in the kind of UK boxing world. Now, as many of you know, that's because of the kind of history of the fight with their dads having, the two fights prior. And unfortunately we missed out on the trilogy, but the whole build up, the whole fights themselves, the going back and forth was just immense. Nothing like the UK had probably ever seen. And now the Sons are, picking up the torch and they're carrying it on. So you've got the spectacle, the historical kind of spectacle of it. And then also there's a lot of other things surrounding the fight. It's being fought at a catchweight. So that brings in a new dilemma or a new kind of angle to the fight of who's that going to favour. But yeah, there's loads of factors with this fight. Obviously, both big names in the boxing world. So mega fight. Not one that probably a lot of us expected to ever see happen. It definitely wasn't on my radar for the last couple of years or so. But one I'm very happy we're going to get to see, and I think it is quite an exciting fight. So let's break it down. I'm going to talk about what I think will happen in the fight, the advantages I think both fighters have, and then I'll finish off with my prediction. So you better stay to the end of the video, because if you want to put your bets on, this is the guy you listen to. Recently I've made two predictions, got one right, one wrong, right? That's a 50% win ratio, okay? So back me. And also, if you've gotten this far, do drop a like on the video and subscribe. Let's grow this channel. But anyway, let's get into the actual video. So the first thing I think we've got to talk about is the weight. As I said before, this is quite a big factor, as it is happening at a catch weight of, I think it's 157 pounds here or there. Now that is obviously just a little bit below the kind of middleweight category, which is 160. And then you've obviously got super middleweight at 168. Eubank has fought the majority of his career at middleweight, so obviously that's quite close to his weight category. He's got to lose a little bit, but not loads. And Eubank has also fought at super middleweight once, I think maybe once or twice, but definitely considers himself, a middleweight, and it's probably where he's at his best physically. On the other end of the scale, see what I did there on the other end of the scale? We've got Conor Benn, who has fought the majority of his career at welterweight, and that's about 147 pounds. And even as a welterweight, he's never been a particularly big one. Sometimes you see people in weight classes who, Anthony Yarde, for example, big light heavyweight, could easily move up if he wanted to. It's not necessarily the case with Conor Benn. He's never looked massive at that weight. But they're meeting somewhere in the middle. And the first question you've got to ask is, who does that benefit? Now, a lot of people say when there's a catch weight, it obviously always benefits the bigger man. But it's a bit more complex than that, because yes, it will essentially benefit Eubank the most, I believe, because number one, it's closer to his weight of 160. So there's less change in weight. So he is the bigger guy. But then saying that, there will also be consequences for Eubank of dropping that weight. There's a rehydration clause in place. So, it's not like he can just rehydrate after the weigh-in and come in as big as he likes. There is a clause there. And it takes a lot out of you to cut down, come down. He's not particularly, he's not fresh in his career. He's a bit older. So it'll be interesting to see how much that takes out of him, doing that weight cut coming down. On the other side for Ben, that's a big jump coming from 147 to, what did I say? I think I said 157. That's a big jump. And that we don't know what kind of effect that's going to have on him. Is he going to be, we're talking by putting that weight on, you're putting muscle mass on, you tire more, you're just not physically used to it. So it's difficult to see who's going to benefit from that the most. It's going to hinder both fighters in some way. I think it's about which fighter deals with that better. So it's hard to say, but I'd probably lean to it favouring Eubank because obviously he's the bigger guy and is closer to his weight. The second thing I think we need to talk about before we get into the technical side of the fight is the kind of the stage itself. You know, who's going to cope best with being on the main stage? Now, this one, again, I'm full of sitting on the fence today. That's all I seem to be doing. I promise I went with the prediction. But again, it's hard to call who will deal better with the stage. Because, as Eubank said in a lot of the kind of face-to-faces, he was saying, look, you haven't fought on the big stage. I have. I've been there. I've done that in front of big UK crowds, heavy atmosphere where it drains you, you know, mentally. And yes, he has. But the two I think of are George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders, and he lost both of those. So it's not a great track record. Saying that, you know, he has fought more recently against Liam Williams, which again would have been a pretty big stage, not a crazy, like not a mega fight, but still, you know, big stage, and he's clearly coped fine there. So you don't know when it's the real big time. Can Eubank mentally get up for it? Well, not get up for it, but cope mentally. We'll see. Then you flip it and you look at Ben. Well, he hasn't been on the main stage yet. He's not had a mega fight. So it's difficult to say. Again, I'll probably lean to Eubank just because I think he's got the experience. He's been there. And even though he's lost, he has still been there. He's had that experience. So we'll see. Now, let's get on to the fight itself. I'm going to start by looking at probably the advantages for both fighters, how I would play it out, you know, how I would play it out, like I'd have a chance in the ring. I speak like as if they're going to listen to me. They should. So, Ben, his kind of advantage going into the fight. Well, Ben is going to be the smaller guy. It's going to be the quicker guy. Eubank is fast, but I still think Ben is going to be the quicker puncher, etc. Movement-wise, very fast. Also, you know, good upper body movement. He slips a lot. He's good at getting out of range. I've seen in his last fights. So those are kind of his main advantages. Now, I would say for him coming up against Eubank, what he's going to do is upset Eubank's rhythm. You can't let this Eubank get into a rhythm. We saw where he struggled the most, Eubank, was against George Groves, where he was just getting hit with that jab constantly, struggled to kind of get in close and let his hands go, because that's ultimately what Eubank wants to do. So my advice for Ben would be is do what he does best, and that is keep in and out of range, flicking, you know, getting that jab off, disrupting Eubank, avoid engaging in close, make Eubank work for those engagements. Don't meet him in the center of the ring and, you know, slug it out, because he is the bigger man and he will hurt you, or he'll hurt Ben. So I would say avoid that, come in and out of range, keep mobile, keep moving, lateral movement, etc. And yeah, just put him off with the jab. Don't let him get into that rhythm. And I think if he can do that, keep out of range, I think Eubank will get frustrated, will try and walk him down, and then that's when Ben can land some killer blows. Do I think Ben can knock him out? No, I don't. I think, you know, Ben can bang at his weight, but he's still not, even at welterweight, he's not, you know, a feared puncher. And then jumping up to middleweight against Eubank, who also has got a very good chin, doesn't get, you know, well, hasn't been knocked out so far, and has been in there with people like George Groves who can bang. So I just can't see that being an option for Ben. And I wouldn't get into a trade-off with Eubank. I don't think that would end well for him. Eubank, on the other hand, I think, you know, when you see Eubank, his style, you know, he clearly likes it when he can meet fighters kind of head on, when fighters, you know, walk down high guard, you know, and come at him. You know, my examples for that would be Liam Williams, his last fight, very much pressure fighter, gloves up, take a few to give a few, and that played straight into Eubank's hand. The other example is like what's his name, Abraham, when he fought him. Oh, God knows how long that was. But again, that was another example of someone just coming in, gloves up, and Eubank just thrives on that. That kind of mid-range, letting the hands go. His punch power, his punch speed is very good. And he was all over it. So I think for you, so we know for Eubank, that's what he likes. For him, I think he can't just go, I think he can't just walk down Ben. I think that would be too easy for Ben to take advantage of. I think Eubank needs to start off by establishing his jab. He is the bigger guy. He will have the reach on Ben. I think he needs to establish the jab early, work on that. I know his jab's not his strongest point, but I think by just having that reach advantage, if he can hold Ben off with the jab, frustrate Ben, and then I think he could slowly grind down Ben into the kind of mid rounds. That's when he can kind of start loosening up a little bit, getting a bit closer, bullying Ben in the ring, letting the hands go, the kind of things of getting him onto the ropes, throwing the combinations, and then physically just starting to bully Ben. And I think Eubank would have a lot of success doing that. And I feel that kind of last assessment I gave of, establishing the jab and being successful with that, and then going on to pummel Ben will probably be how we see the fight play out. And I am predicting a Eubank TKO in the 9th round. Put your money on it now. That's what I think will happen. I think it'll be a good fight. Could go to points, but yeah, I'm feeling that I feel like Ben's getting knocked out in this fight. If not, I feel like there would be a knockdown at least, and that's Ben going down. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Put it down in the comments, and yeah, we'll see. It should be a really exciting fight. But thanks for listening, and goodbye.